Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Sim Radio here on the Sisters in Music Network. It's Tuneful Tuesday and you're tuned into Mixing It with Nicki Kris. This is Nicki, and in case you don't know anything about me, I am a singer-songwriter from Raleigh, North Carolina. My show celebrates women in the music and entertainment industry, providing an avenue for them to showcase their talent. Our motto, Sisters in Music, together we are stronger. We have a special treat today. I am joined in the studio live for the first time with some wonderfully talented women. See, Tuneful Tuesday, it's not Music Monday. We're excited. I'm so excited. My first guest is a classical composer, pianist, lyricist, and producer. We had her on this past April and just had to bring her back to talk about her latest release, Mythologies. Please welcome the beautifully talented and my dear friend, Danaë Vlasse. Danaë, how are you?
Hi, Nicki. Hi, I'm so pleased to speak with you again. I just adore you. Thank you for this show.
Oh, you're quite welcome, and thank you so much. So I'm really excited. And I know you have brought some very special guests with you today. And
my best
I
friend.
am excited. Yes. And they're also, I was putting the promo together, and I'm like looking at everybody's picture. I'm like, oh my God, everybody is so awesomely beautiful. So I'm so excited. And they're all super uber talented. So we are going to introduce each of them, and then we're going to have a nice, fun group conversation. So all of these three additional women are very talented in their own right, and we're super excited to have them in our interview booth. So joining us are multi-award-winning, classically trained operatic vocalist and future Mixin' It guest, Sangeeta Kaur. And I'm sure I mispronounced that, but please forgive me. Grammy Award-winning vocalist, songwriter, and actress, Hila Plitamann, and violinist from Grammy Award-winning New Age world music group, Opium Moon, Lili Haydn. Ladies, welcome to Mixin' It.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. I am in such awe at the talent in the room, and I'm so excited to have you all on the show. And if I did mispronounce names, please forgive me. So, Danaë, let's talk about Mythologies. Was just released earlier this month, August 6th, I believe. Tell us about your journey and the inspiration for this work.
Oh, Mythologies is very, very dear to my heart. This album has been 5 years in the making, and it's a journey that was interrupted by my most recent album from last year, the one called Poem, which also featured Hila and Sangeeta, both beautiful vocalists on that project. And that came up as a more immediate project to finish because the music was already written. And when Hila called me and said, I want to record all your French art song, I said, well, then let's do it. But that did divert my work. So what I did is I spent 2 years putting together Poem, which was a celebration of my French heritage. I was born in France to a French mother and a Greek father. So when I finally returned to Mythologies last summer during the pandemic, I knew that I was going to absolutely devote myself to finishing the album that would honor my Greek half. My father is from the island of Ithaca in Greece, one of the beautiful Ionian Isles, and it's made famous primarily because it was known, and it still is known, as the island of King Odysseus, who is the hero of Homer's Odyssey. And so it's got a very, very important role in Western culture, because this place is the heaven-like dream destination for a life journey. That is, the representation of the Odyssey. And I think we as a culture, at least in the Western world, have an idealized vision of the trials of life and the purpose of life, the goal of returning to peace. That's kind of encompassed in the way that the Odyssey is told. So that album has been a long time coming, a very amazing, passionate project for which I was so blessed to be able to return to my two best soprano friends, Hila Plitamann and Sangeeta Kaur, to sing on this, in some cases, pieces that had been specifically written for them. And it's just such a joy to be able to bring on board then the other artists that are on this project. I'm not the only pianist who plays. There were two other pianists who contributed their amazing talents, pianist Robert Thies and pianist Brendan White. And we have a beautiful featured flutist, Wouter Kellerman from South Africa. And then the string players, oh my God, we have on the call today with us, we have Lili Haydn, who's an amazing violinist. Yes, Lili. And we're going to get to talk to you about your experience in a moment. I want to mention the other two string players for this album, where cellist Eru Matsumoto and my cousin, violist Virginie Davzac de Castera. That's a mouthful, even if you're French.
Wow.
And then we also had percussion. This was an exploration for me, a really wild sonic exploration on this album, because in contrast to the intimacy and simplicity of the art song that I did on my last album, Poem, this album, Mythologies, is all about reaching far beyond your own personal experience. It's really about idealized experiences, the grandeur of mythology. And so we had percussion on this album to help tell the stories of the mythology, the source inspiration for this music. Most of it taken from the Odyssey, but not absolutely all of it. These stories needed, in some places, thunder or rain. And these elements were recorded as percussion from two percussionists, Nadim Marjalani and Emilio Myler. Emilio was also my co-producer on this project, and a huge, huge, amazing supporter and an amazing friend. So I want to recognize all these amazing men, and I know this is a radio show, Sisters in Music, dedicated to women in the industry, and I have some of my best girlfriends here with me today, but I do want to acknowledge that 50% of the participants on this project were men who gave so much passion and all their talent, and they were amazing to work with. I look forward to working with all of them again. So yeah, just in summary, what you need to know about Mythologies is it's really a much greater creative vision than anything I've ever done, and it's because the source inspiration is all about this fantasy realm that causes people to question everything about our culture, the cultural concepts of heroism and divinity and faith and morality and these really big ideas. So for me, this was a much grander project with more collaborators than I've ever had on any album.
And I think it's fantastic. And one of the things, so, you know, we obviously support our brothers in arms as well. And I've actually even had one or two of them on the show. And Emilio is one of my favorites as well. So I'm super, yes. E and I, as I call him, we chat back and forth every now and then. So very excited that he was able to participate. And you know, it's interesting, and I actually, before I ask my next question, I'm curious, and you know, ladies, feel free to chime in. As you were talking, I have never created an album project that followed any type of theme. I'm very much a fly by the seat of your pants, like even like writer, composer. I just go with my gut and was like, you know what, I really like this, and I'm just going to put it on the album. I don't even really think about, how I'm going to order the songs. A lot of times it's just, okay, yeah, this looks good. Very loosely structured, I would say. Is that something that most of you do? This is more of like a curious question for me than anything, because you're not the first person that has said that, to be like a full theme, a full, everything was done for a specific reason. Do all of you create your albums that way?
I guess I'll go ahead, Lili.
Oh, sorry. Well, no, I was actually thinking that how beautifully inspired this album of Danaë's is with Mythologies, and how inspiring it is to have a theme. And actually, the Opium Moon album that we are actually just putting out this Friday has a theme that basically is called Night and Day. It's a double album. Forgive me for jumping in with that, but yes, it's called Night and Day, and it has all of the sort of sensual love-making music on the Night album, and all of the up-tempo, danceable, get-it-done music on the Day album. So we actually did do that other times, but it's the first time that I've done that, and it really is. It's an amazing directive and creative imperative to have.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'm not the only one that was just kind of winging it.
Yes, although
that's good.
If I might chime in, this is Hila speaking. If I can just chime in to say, there is an exceptionally artistic quality in in Mythologies that is rarely seen. There are bands that will create a kind of journey or a thematic idea to their CDs, but every piece of information, not just of the music, of the audio and all that, but the visuals and the idea of what piece comes after what, and all of this. As Danaë was sending it to us, and I'm sure my other incredible artistic colleagues will attest to it. It was just kind of mind-blowing in the scope of the cohesive idea behind a work of art. And then every track is some monstrous 7-minute to 14-minute. It's just unbelievable what she's created here. That's all I really have to say. Anyway, just very.
I would definitely agree. No, and I would definitely agree. And I know that, and Danaë, we actually talked about this in April. COVID actually had an impact on the album. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It did. This was not meant to be recorded remotely, but we had no choice. And in the end, I have to say that, there's so much acknowledgement for the incredible work that the musicians put in. In many cases, we were lucky enough to have musicians that had their own home recording studios, but in some cases it was borrowing microphones from engineers, and, the neighbor who happens to be an engineer comes over and sets up a whole recording booth in your closet, and you make do. It works how it works, and in the end, in the mixing phase, I have to acknowledge my mix engineer, Gerhard Just, who is a gem. He did Poem with me as well, and just absolutely one of the most amazing, talented, under-recognized individuals who really needs to be seen for this incredible work to bring cohesion to all the disparate recording spaces. In some cases, there were home studios. In other cases, as I said, it was just done in a closet. And, Gerhard spent a lot of time on the phone with the artists. Even though Lili has this beautiful home recording studio, we had at least 2 Zoom meetings between the co-producers, the engineer, and the artist trying to guide Lili to say, well, you know what, let's put that mic there and that mic there, and once that placement's in place, let's hear how it sounds. And Lili was such a gem because I think, Lili, you re-recorded 3 times, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Before it was all done, because they kept wanting to move microphones on her. You know, this was all done remotely. So it was, let's try this and see how it sounds. Thank you so much for your patience, Lili. Hila, I remember you re-recording many, many times. And Sangeeta turned into a recording engineer midway through this process, all of a sudden running vocal sessions for both she and Hila. So, you know, we had everything from studios canceling bookings to just knowing that we couldn't get together because it was too dangerous. Most of the recording was done during the most dangerous phase of the pandemic here between December and January into February of this year. And there's no way I was going to expose my beloved recording engineer to this risk, given that he's in a high-risk population. And so we just made it work remotely, and you know, I'm so grateful for all the musicians. Sangeeta got an amazing microphone that we had to wait months for because it was coming from Germany. And, it was meant to have arrived in November, finally arrived in February. And, you know, worth the wait, but the fact is these were all complications from the pandemic.
Yep. Well, complications or not, you certainly have created a wonderful masterpiece. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. Let's talk with the lovely vocalist on the album. So Sangeeta, you have been singing Danaë's music for a couple of years now. Please talk about how it's different. Yes. And I remember you from several of her other works as well. So please talk about how it's different to perform music that was composed just for you.
Oh, my goodness. First off, I just want to say that the whole phenomena of this situation working with Danaë and Hila and Lili and all of these musicians have been absolutely a dream and truly in so many ways such a different experience than some of the past recordings I've done with other artists. I just feel that this core group is so special. And I think a lot that brought us together is purely the same intention and vision of musicality and artistry and friendship and a lot of love and really creating from that space. So I just feel like having this experience is already quite unique. Going out as a classical artist, you know, there's a lot of different experiences you can have, but I feel so grateful to have been working with Danaë and this music that she's been writing for the last couple of years for myself, for Hila, is extraordinary. She really understands the artist and what each artist has to bring, what each artist's gifts are. And she writes listening and hearing and feeling each of her performers. So that alone is absolute gift as an artist, as a singer. A lot of vocal music can be challenging, and there's a lot of music out there that we do, but Danaë's music feels like it's like a massage for the vocal cords and the body and the mind. It is just, it sounds, and sometimes you look at the page, you're like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Who is this crazy woman creating such a crazy music? Is she human? But when you actually, when you get into it, and you just work through the music, and for me as a vocalist, begin to sing it, it really just feels so natural. It is exactly what the human voice wants to do. And the way she stretches us in these lines and phrases, it feels so natural. And when we can get there, when we can arrive there, it's like an explosion in my being. I wouldn't say in our being. I would say Hila feels the same way, but I can definitely vouch for myself. It's really powerful, and It does something so much more than, it's not just a song, it's not just music, but it's really soulful. And, you know, she takes us into these stories and history and things that I learn more and more from her. And I always joke and I say, Danaë, you're not from this world. You're not from this era. You know, so she shares with us so much magic from so many stories and histories. And like, it's absolutely stunning and truly so divine and a blessing to be able to perform your music, Danaë. So thank you.
Oh my God, Sangeeta, I love you so much.
I love you.
I can feel the love between you ladies, just you know, talking here. So, you know, there's definitely a strong sisterhood between the three of you, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, Sangeeta, is the third track on the Mythologies album is called Penelope, and you're going to be featuring it in your upcoming PBS special, which
yes.
I am so excited about, and I'm sure you are as well, too. Could you please tell everyone about that?
Yes, absolutely. So it's actually happening very soon, in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be premiering on Front and Center PBS on September 19th. And so this piece itself is just gorgeous. I mean, it is another one of those pieces that, you know, I just feel like once you get it, it is the most exciting thing. So for the PBS show, we have an incredible crew of artists, directors, producers. One of my dear friends, Amish, his crew came in and created this incredible landscape and scenery, visually, all out of graphics. And, you know, we had huge, beautiful LED screens on the ground and the sides. And so he was able to create, you know, he took us back to the Greek surroundings and temples and arches and these, I mean, it was just stunning. And so, you know, we got to get into costume, and the wonderful choreographer, Amy Ryerson, she came and choreographed and staged the entire piece. So it's kind of a mini scene. The song itself is almost 9 minutes, Danaë?
No, this one is shorter. This is on the under 8 minutes.
It was under 7 minutes something. Okay, you're right. So, you know, it was like this mini scene that we got to display in the show. And I thought for me, it was the most special piece just because it really brought my dear friends, but also allowed me to explore this music and vocally and kind of put that out in the show as well, even though it's a Front and Center tends to feature, you know, rock artists and rock bands and country and all of this. So it's definitely unique for Front and Center. But the production itself of just that piece alone is absolutely stunning. So, so beautiful.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. So that actually is a great time. You're welcome. We're going to take a quick sponsor break. This is my wonderful sister in crime, Chatting with Nat.
Chatting with Nat is a podcast for independent women seeking to speak their truth and to break down barriers. We host honest conversations that help to guide and empower women. Speak your truth and set yourself free. Let your voice be heard.
And we're back on Mixing It with Nicki Kris. We are live with a nice, wonderful group of talented ladies. We have Danaë Vlasse. We have Sangeeta. Sangeeta, please say your last name for me so I don't mess it up completely.
Sangeeta Kaur.
Kaur. Okay. So just like the car, like you're driving a car. Okay, now I'm going to remember that. Hila Plitamann and Lili Haydn. We are so excited. So I want to talk a little bit with Hila as well before we get to your song. the Poseidon and the Odysseus, so we will play that in just a minute. But Hila, I actually was quite taken aback with all of the accomplishments that you have and how renowned you are. Not that I didn't know the name, but I actually, when I started researching, information about you and some of the things that you've done, I was just in complete, utter awe with everything that you have accomplished. You've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of soloist work, especially with major orchestras in the USA and Europe. And I also know you're a mom, too. So we have that in common. I'm a mom, too. And, it's hard to balance all of that. So, how do you do that? Because you do seem to have such a demanding career. How do you balance that with motherhood?
Well, firstly, thank you for the kind words. I'd say that the motherhood is the biggest accomplishment and one that is also the biggest gift of daily experience. But with your permission, I actually want to come back to this amazing CD we're talking about. And also second, what Sangeeta was saying and what Danaë had opened with, which is that there is this humbling quality to my life for the past couple of years of working with these two ladies in particular. Lili, I'm a big fan, and I cannot wait to actually work with you. I love everything you've done on the album and other, and also Danaë's ability to kind of magnetize into her circle so much talent and good humans that go along with that talent, so that the art that's made is made with such beautiful spirit. That's been a real, you talk about the challenges of kind of balancing it all, but frankly, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. The more I get to work with people that inspire me and that lighten up my heart and art that transports me like hers does, it's it doesn't matter how tired you are by the end of the day. You're just grateful. I don't know if that answers some of your question, but that's really how I feel about it. And then also
it does. It definitely. Nope. Yeah. Go right ahead.
Yeah, and then I'd love to also talk to the quality of how Danaë has found Sangeeta and I, who, by the way, for anyone listening that hasn't heard Sangeeta's voice, it is possibly the most beautiful voice that is on this earth.
Honest,
in my humble
every
opinion.
Every time Hila says that, I'm like, she's nuts. So she is incredible. I think she and I just Danaë, Hila, and I just sit here and love each other and compliment each other all day. And it's like, Lili, we need to bring you in this circle ASAP.
No, but I'm actually talking about it's of course it's in the girly love way, but I'm also talking from a very artistically integral, authentic place. I really mean it. There's something about her voice that is literally healing. The way that it comes through her spirit and out of her little tiny body is really something exceptional and extraordinary. And Danaë has found a way of combining our voices that whenever we get to be in the same room and sing together, whether it's performance or recording, it does nothing but energize me. It could be working for hours
and it makes us
end.
giggle. We just giggle and giggle because it feels so good.
Yeah, I've seen a couple.
I know.
I've seen a couple photos of you guys, and you're like all like very, having a good old time. So that's fantastic.
We have a really great time together. Yes. And if I can just add one last thing about the CD, which because Danaë had spoken about the comparison between the poem CD that Sangeeta and I had done before, and there's when you hear some of these tracks, you know, Sangeeta was talking about the landscape created for her PBS show for this piece. Danaë creates seascapes and landscapes with her music that completely take you to another space and time. And
absolutely.
And there's just something that is otherworldly, out of body kind of an experience in listening to the music that she's created for this CD.
Wow, Hila, thank you. Oh my God.
I love this. I love all the love. I absolutely adore it. So this actually is a wonderful, wonderful time for us to play the second track from the album. Before we do that, Danaë, 30 seconds to please tell everyone the story around Poseidon and Odysseus.
So Odysseus is the hero of Homer's Odyssey, and after fighting the Trojan Wars for 10 years, he turns to go homeward with his men and his ships. And through a series of misadventures, he angers the god Poseidon, who's the god of the sea. And Poseidon decides, well, you're just going to drown then. So Poseidon just sends a storm and, you know, with the flick of a little finger, drowns all of poor Odysseus's ships and all of his men. And so in this piece, you'll hear this deep godly presence in the beautiful contrabass flute of Wouter Kellerman. You'll hear that godly voice deep in the ocean. It's very commanding. It's very easy. He just decides he's going to just drown a whole fleet of ships. And we see a brief representation of Odysseus as the hero, and then we hear these amazing moments where you'll hear the sopranos really exposed, who are representing the calls of the sailors drowning under the sea after the storm has capsized their ships. And finally, Odysseus was saved by the mercy of the goddess Athena. And that's represented with the arrival of the soprano flute, again, the same flute as Wouter Kellerman plays beautifully. And then there's a sense of salvation at the end because, you know, our hero survives to continue his journey homeward.
All right, we are going to play this. This is Poseidon and Odysseus, performed by Hila Plitamann and Sangeeta Kaur. Wouter Kellerman on the flute, Danaë Vlasse, composer and pianist. Wow, I don't know what else to say, but wow. I mean, that was just absolutely breathtaking, and, you know, in so many different ways. Yes, that's a perfect word, exquisite. Excellent.
I can feel the ocean crashing.
Yes, you can. You definitely can.
Yeah. Well, all of this is
very well done.
Right. It's just one more opportunity for me to say how blessed I am to have such amazing musicians represent my ideas, because all of this would remain notes on paper without the incredible generosity of these musicians. So, thank you all.
No,
thank you so much.
We love you.
We
love you so much, Danaë.
I love you, Hila. Yeah.
Oh.
And I love you all.
Will we get to hear Lili today?
Yes, we're gonna. I actually was just gonna say, let's learn a little bit about our fourth guest, Lili Haydn, who has been so patiently waiting for me to get to her turn. So Lili is a violinist. You won a Grammy with your New Age World music group Opium Moon. Heard earlier that you have a new album out, or double album coming out. So excited about that. But, you know, you're playing classical music, right? So it must be something a little bit different for you. Like other musicians on the album, you have a remarkable stylistic variety, which really brings diversity to your sound. You know, do you do any type of, like, you're welcome. Do you do any type of, like, conscious shift, you know, shifting in and out at different creative spaces when you move between different genres? Because obviously this is very different from the things that you're composing with Opium Moon.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let me just say another few words about what we just heard. That was so exquisite, and you could feel the heart and and truly the story of the mythology. I mean, even though it's been probably 30 years since I read Odysseus, I could absolutely feel the waves crashing on the rocks and the heavenly bodies speaking, and the triumph at the end for having, you know, prevailed. Is so beautiful, Danaë, and so inspiring to feel your sensitive heart pulling it's a reminder of the sacredness of the creative process. Truly, to hear you. To watch your process and be included in it. So thank you so much for sharing it and for pulling me in. I knew your work from your last albums and was a big fan, and was so flattered when you asked me to be a part of it. You're right, Nicki, that I don't usually perform classical music for people, but honestly, I think when you're, but Danaë I think Danaë's music actually, as much as it does reside in the classical space, really is about the human heart and the human experience, which is so perfectly represented which is really what mythology is about, is to help us navigate our humanity. And so she pulled me in because I play with intensity and a lot of heart, and I try to. And so when she asked me to be a part of it, I was just totally delighted. And I did have to make a little bit of a shift because normally I'm the composer and and a lot of what I do is improvising. So simply, but I've worked with a lot of similar people. I think, Hila, our paths have sort of crossed through the Hans Zimmer world, where I used to play and sing as well, and your name is really its own mythology, truly, and so revered. And so I was trained classically, and my first great love was chamber music. So when she asked me to play in this play her piano trio with the wonderful Robert Peace and Ari Matsumoto, they're such phenomenal musicians. It speaks to my first great love, which is classical music, but it is a little bit of a shift.
It's quite interesting because, and I think I mentioned this to Danaë when we were chatting before, I actually was classically trained as well. It's very, I'm not going to say funny, but it is interesting how so many of us started in classical music. I obviously went in a completely different direction, but it is interesting that tends to be like the foundational base of many of us doing other types of genres of music. So it has such a stronghold for all of us.
Absolutely. Well, it's also, I think it's part of our DNA, even if we don't know it. Mm-hmm. All of our, cycles of fifths and everywhere we've been is in some way foreshadowed in all of the composers that we love. And actually, especially for the violin, to get the kind of tone that is, that has the range of emotion, you really do need to actually have classical training. I don't think it's possible to express the full range without that.
Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about the song or the track that Lili is featured on, Danaë. I want to make sure that we do have time to play it in its entirety. Yeah. So could you give us an overview of Nepenthe,
I will. Please? Yes, I'll be brief on this one. Nepenthe is actually really simple conceptually. It's mentioned in the 4th book of Homer's Odyssey. He describes a potion of the gods that allowed mortals to forget their troubles. And historians believe this would have been some form of liquid opium. And so as you listen to this piece, you'll hear the journey from the somber, dismal depths of despair at the beginning, gradually carried out of the cello and to the piano, where there's this kind of magical music box in the loneliness of night feeling. And then the violin comes in, and Lili's playing is intentionally a bit raw at the beginning. Everything is emotionally in a very intense, in a negative way. And gradually the piece blossoms into this euphoric triumph of hope and faith.
Perfect. So this is, okay, you said it different than I did. I think you added an E on the end of it, and my Greek is horrible. Nepenthe, is that how we say it?
That's it.
All right, perfect. This is Lili Haydn on violin, Haru Matsumoto on cello, Robert Pease on piano, and this is composed by Danaë.
Brava.
Amazing.
So, Lily, good job.
Lily, you're amazing. It's so beautiful.
What a piece. How profound and intense. Brought me back. And I've never played chamber music in remotely. The fact that this came together so beautifully, recording it in separate studios is remarkable as well.
Well, you recorded 3 times, so you put in your work. Well done. Really amazing. Yeah. And virtual applause to the other artists who weren't on this call.
Robert pieces.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Everyone.
Yeah. Nicki, thank you so much for featuring all this.
Thank you.
Nicki, where can we find?
Did we lose Nicki?
I forgot to take myself off mute.
Oh.
I'm like sitting here talking and nobody was answering me, but that's what happens when it's live. So it is what it is. So I was going to say, before we run out of time, can you tell us where we can get the album?
It is currently streaming on all major digital platforms, and there will be physicals for sale on Amazon in probably about 4 to 6 weeks.
Awesomeness. And the cover is absolutely
stunning. Yeah, the artwork
is stunning.
Yeah,
it is
Greg Spolenka.
Yeah.
What an artist. Yes,
absolutely
all the artwork. And that's probably the reason to get physical copies, because the booklet is full of art laid out by the digital designer, Jeff Byrne. But the artist, Greg Spolenka, is absolutely stunning. Everything he does is magical.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. It's beautiful, and the album itself, the creative process, everything about it is just totally magnificent. And I'm so excited that all of you were able to join today. Very appreciative of the time that you were able to give so that we could interview you all on the show and help, promote this wonderful creative masterpiece, if you will, as I am going to call it. With that,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
to
you.
all
I
of
love you all, my sisters.
So much.
Sangeeta, Hila, Lily.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicki.
You're quite welcome. You're welcome. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for Mixing It on this special live edition.
Bye, Nicki.
And bye. And on behalf of everyone at Sim Radio, this is Nicki Kris. Until next time, keep on mixing it.